That's why I using the word balance, because it's not as easy as just go buy everything. The stellar business is the balance everywhere, including this buy versus build dilemma.
This is DevOps Paradox, episode number 328, The Real Cost of Build versus Buy Decisions. Welcome to DevOps Paradox. This is a podcast about random stuff in which we, Darren and Victor, pretend we know what we're talking about. Most of the time, we mask our ignorance by putting the word DevOps everywhere we can and mix it with random buzzwords like Kubernetes, serverless, CI/CD, team productivity, islands of happiness, and other fancy expressions that make us sound like we know what we're doing. Occasionally, we invite guests who do know something, but we do not do that often since they might make us look incompetent. The truth is out there, and there is no way we are going to find it. P.S. It's Darren reading this text and feeling embarrassed that Victor made me do it. Here are your hosts, Darren Pope and Victor Farsick. You may be sitting around some days and you're thinking to yourself, wow, it seems like I could just go and build this myself. How long could it take? Victor, have you ever thought that to yourself?
Oh, every second day. But the answer to that question depends on what that something is.
Well, let me give you a raw example. A bookshelf. I could go and build a bookshelf, or I could go and buy a bookshelf.
In my case, there is only one option. I cannot even change the light bulb in my apartment.
On today's show, we have Alex Gusev on from UploadCare. Alex, how are you doing?
Great, you?
Good. My example was probably a bit contrived, especially since we live in the technology world, but would you ever go and build a bookcase or would you buy a bookcase?
Like 20 years ago, I built an electronic library, for the ebooks. During that time, there were no clouds. There were no services like UploadCare, so we built a lot ourselves and spend a lot of resources focusing on not on the product, but it was also a happy time still.
So you were an overachiever. You built an electronic bookshelf instead of just building a regular bookshelf. So okay, you were just overachieving. That's good to hear. Boy, you really took it and ran with it. I'm very thankful for that. You said a couple of things there though that were interesting. There was more to it than you thought. I'm using my words, not your words. Did that really catch you off guard because you didn't have something else that you could use? You had to build it all from scratch.
Yeah, so basically at that time there were no quality reader for mobile devices, and we really wanted to have a very nice experience of reading because we liked books. A lot of things that are automated today, we did ourselves.
I think, Darren, that you were asking the wrong question in the first place.
Okay, that's normal, isn't it? That I asked the wrong question.
I dare anybody to find me the case where somebody only built or only bought something. Let me give you an example, right? And when I say buy, I mean use existing product, right? You use Linux on your servers, that would be buy. But you always build something on top of it. You always install something on top of it. You use Kubernetes, that would be buy, no matter whether it's managed service or no. And then you're going to install some stuff and configure it and what's not, right? So it's always both. The question is whether you put 20% into buy and 80% into build or vice versa. I never saw anybody buying a solution and saying, okay, this is it. Kind of like, I'm not going to tweak it. I'm not going to configure it. I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not going to put anything on top of it. I'm just going to use it.
Definitely, I completely agree. I just wanted to say that currently it's so much easier to build a business because it's easier to buy so much pieces of it to focus on what's needed. But it's definitely a balance between buy and build. My opinion is how do you maintain this balance is how you run the business.
Well, but running the business shouldn't really make any difference in how I build my business, should it?
For me, it's like a nature of business, like today's business in the internet. You should pick the game that you want to play and focus and buy everything else that you are not building.
I understand your argument. I semi-agree with it. I don't fully agree with it because I pick the game, but the problem is the rules keep changing of the game.
But it's also the business you're having is going to affect what you can and cannot buy at certain level, right? You can say, hey, my business is this application that is designed to run in WebSphere. Can I buy Kubernetes managed service? Well, no, because that thing does not run there. So I agree with you, Alex, that you should be buying everything that is not your business. It's just that it's not such a clear cut because much of the things that is your business, or more importantly, things that are not your business, but you already somehow have and dictate some other things, end up messing up what should be a relatively easy solution, right?
That's why I'm using the word balance, because it's not as easy as just go buy everything. The stellar business is the balance everywhere, including this buy versus build dilemma.
Well, if we're trying to work through that dilemma, where do we start? I mean, we're talking about, focusing on the things that are differentiated, like build those things and buy everything else. Ignoring the, email services and internet service, all those things, we got that. I mean, where should we, if we're building a business, where should we today consider breaking off between the two? Let me give a hypothetical example. Let's say that I am building a AI startup to help developers write code. What would I build and what would I buy?
It's always dilemma about the resources. When people decide to build something, they see a very clear path to building and shipping it, but it's not the whole picture because you will need to maintain it. You will need to update what you build. You need to run compliance and keep everything clean. So I heard the other week that some CEO of some company said that we've built Jira in 2 weeks with AI, and we're going to ditch Jira because we are just built it. That's actually what currently happens with AI startups or startups with the help of AI. But I think it can be short-sighted in some cases because first, you need resources to build something and you can underestimate them. And second, as a business owner or CTO or some manager, you easily forget about maintenance costs, usually because it's very hard to estimate them if you have no experience with dealing with self-built things.
And on top of all that, the ridiculous thinking behind that example is, so if you're unhappy with the price, the money you're giving to Atlassian for Jira, right? And you want to get away from that. Why build it if there are dozens of open source projects that will give you better solution than what you are about to build anyways?
It's a very attractive idea for many managers that their company has unique management structure and unique processes. There is no tool in the world that can support their processes. So they need to build their own process management and task management service. I think it's because the feeling of uniqueness of themselves that keeps them wanting to do this. So one of examples this person said is that we will have Kanban boards finally. I'm not a fan of Jira too, but I just see what will happen to this project in half of a year, in a year.
That's so, it's so funny. There is a person who says, we need Kanban, which is supported by Jira, but we don't want to pay to Jira. And we need to build it ourselves because nobody else in this whole wild world came up with the idea to have a ticketing system for free that includes Kanban. We invented Kanban. It's our thing. Nobody else used Kanban before us.
Yeah, don't want to blame him or her so much, but yeah, I know the feeling because I was there when I was younger.
When When companies think like that, they better be Google or similar company, because there is a very few number of companies on this planet that are so big and facing challenges that nobody else faced, right? Because you can say, Google, yeah, we need to build our stuff because actually we are doing things that nobody else is doing yet. The rest of the industry will be doing it in a few years. But then you have everybody else, like 99% of us, we are not doing anything that hasn't been done before. And if we are, that's because we are silly. That's the only explanation, because vast majority of people is not on a Google level or Netflix level or what's not.
Yes, this is a very good point, because it's also a part of the answer of initial question about what do you need to consider when you build versus buy. The size of your company is one of those resources to consider. There can be definitely cases that company will need to build a lot. But because of that, there is no universal formula of making the decision.
Here's the formula, I think, or at least one of the formulas. You got to have money if you're going to build. This is the build conversation. You got to have money and you have to have people. If you don't have both, actually, let's flip it around. You're either, this is like the funny meme curves, right? You have the tails on and the big bubble in the middle. I have no money, I have no people. I've got to build. I've got a ton of money and I got a ton of people. I probably need to build. It's in that middle to where buy is the sweet spot. How far off am I on that?
Wow, I never thought about it like this, and it's very interesting. But the first case, when you have no money and you have no people and you are building something, I agree. This is so very risky, of course, but this is how it usually starts. But if we are speaking about software, not bookshelves, there are free plans for that, for this specific spot. But other than that, I agree with the middle and the sweet spot. I think this is where I want to challenge the big companies, because even in the big companies with a lot of stuff and a lot of money, they desire to build something specifically for them, sometimes just result of not built here like syndrome and not the real necessity.
The talk about the size of the companies in number of engineers, that's completely wrong, completely false. That gives big enterprises that live in a previous century excuse to think that they are doing something amazing that has never been done before, right? You take a bank, we have 50,000 people working on this thing, right? And as if that matters, as if that is a reference to, hey, we have 50,000 people building, so we must need more unique solution than 1,000 people that happen to work for Google. Again, not true. Because the number of people is not a reference of how advanced you are. More often than not, it is opposite reference. More often than not, actually, great things are done by a small number of people. If you take, like today, Anthropic, for example, that's not a huge team. That's by all references, at best case, medium-sized company, probably even considered small. And they're building more advanced stuff and they cannot rely on existing solutions because existing solutions do not exist for that something. And they're still infinitely smaller than even an average bank, not to mention the big banks. So the number of people, that's such a fallacy as a point of reference for anything.
Yeah, and usually, as you said, it's very hard to maintain efficiency in high-populated companies. Can be a reason why they think they are unique and need to buy something for themselves. Maybe to keep themselves busy too.
Yes, we always love CV-driven development. That's the best development there is out there. I'm questioning, though, we're talking about full build or buy, and you were talking about not invented here syndrome. A lot of times I think the not invented here kicks in because people don't know that there are options out on the market.
That's the example of the Kanban story from the very beginning, right? But I need Kanban. I just came up with that idea.
This example too, because like 2 years ago, I didn't know that companies like Upload Care even exist. I started my career 20 years ago. There were no clouds, No one can help you to upload files, store them. And up until 2 years ago, I never knew there is solutions to simplify this part of building your business. So this is definitely a good point. We live in such high ratio of noise versus signal, and it's very hard for me at that point even to think about that someone can help me with this problem.
Well, let's stick with the upload care. We won't go down into all things about upload care, but let's think about it. You're uploading files, right? At a high level, that's, forgive me, everybody, upload care and public relations. The core part of your business is uploading files, correct? At the end of the day, it's an easy way to upload files. True or false?
It's how we are currently perceived, yes.
Okay, fair enough, right? And that's the perception, but you're hitting on the point that I'm going for. And we're talking about signal versus noise. Marketing departments are really great at cranking out a lot of signal. Excuse me, the exact opposite. Great at cranking out lots of noise and not a lot of signal. Because if I'm thinking, and I'm a Java developer, and I work in the Spring Boot ecosystem, it's like, oh, that's this thing that I use, and it's not a big deal. But then I don't understand. It's like, oh, I just need to upload a file. But what I don't realize is, and without pulling everything back right now, that there's all these other things that live in the ecosystem of uploading a file, that upload care that probably other people have solved. Correct? Right?
Yeah.
Just because, and this is where these point solution companies, much like upload care, they've gone not just wide, they've gone deep in doing whatever the thing is that they're doing. Now, would I ever build a Kanban company? Yeah, okay, whatever. That's too easy to laugh about, I guess. But how can companies such as Upload Care, such as other companies that are focused on one really tight niche thing, how can they let people know about themselves as an option? Because I think that's the key point. Because much like you said 2 years ago, you didn't even know who Upload Care was. Now you're the CTO. Until I was reached out by y'all, I had never heard of Upload Care. So what can companies like that, or if you're beyond a startup, I do know that much about Upload Care, but if you're a startup or in that early stage, how do you let people know with quality signal and not just a bunch of noise?
Yeah, in my case, they sent me an offer. This is how I knew about the Upload Care. But for more practical ways of marketing, if you ask about like specific ways of how to promote SaaS company like Upload Care?
Yes, something like that. I mean, and let's go beyond the noise, because ads, I use ad blockers, so I don't see ads. How can a company today really get out?
Okay, understand. Ads actually working a bit when targeted in the right way, but I don't know much about it. And actually, as a CTO, the promotion and showing out is not like my strongest part, and I don't have a lot of experience about it. But the highest signal marketing that we had in our history were Hacker News posts, a bit of Reddit, and Product Hunt, I believe.
Okay, so you're in what I consider the big three there.
Yeah, but Product Hunt became very AI-populated area where bots talking with bots. But still, there is not signal versus noise problem. There is a problem on receivers and not much alive people there. But I think they are working on it or fixing. So we get some audience there. But for Upload Care, it's easy and hard to go signal versus noise because we can't go very noisy because we are fixing a very specific problem, and we should target people with those needs, and we can't go full buzz about AI. Well, again, we can do a bit using AI and implementing new like AI products, but as you said, Upload Care starts with upload, and most of people come to us for this because of this specific reason.
It's interesting that you have gone through the big three, and one thing you were saying there is you know who to target. you know the companies that are your target market. So to me, your best signal is to reach out to those companies directly. Now, the question is, again, as CTO, you may or may not know the answer to this. It's like, how do you find the right people to talk to them at the right time? That has to be like nearly impossible a good part of the time.
Yeah, I'm not usually starting the conversations, but believe it or not, usually the problem is not like how to reach the person in the company, but how to reach the correct person in the company, because I was surprised. But yes, companies are reaching out to us, and I'm not the salesperson or marketing person, but from time to time I'm on these lead meetings or prospect meetings. And currently I believe that our funnel is organic from people who are finding out about us. But there is also a competition. And some companies want to change the vendor sometimes, although it's very hard in this industry. Sometimes companies who are already using such services want to find alternatives and reach out to.
Vendor change is always one of those ones that makes sense from the user perspective. It's like, I've gotten fed up with product X, so I'm going to go work with product Y, or product X is no longer covering all of my needs because my needs have changed, so I need to go find product Y. But you're sitting in the prospect meetings. What are you hearing from those prospects of, okay, we're trying to buy, we don't want to build? Or is it, we'd prefer to build, but if you can do it cheap enough, we may buy? What are you hearing?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. And I was like a lot of insights for me by visiting those meetings. Again, they are different companies, and some of companies do not consider building at all. But there is a class of companies who consider build versus buy, and they are concerned mostly about the complexity of integration. Because I believe that Upload Care solves a lot of small problems at once. That's why they have this dilemma and why they are considering. So usually I hear, we want to build, but let us do POC and come back to you.
And then what do they sometimes see? So they come back from the POC and they're going, yeah, don't worry about it, we can take care of this. Or what do they find that it's like, oh no, that's actually, you're doing something that we hadn't thought about doing?
It can sound like bragging, but I will make it to sound like self-criticism. So when they come back and say that, oh, wow, we actually didn't expect that integration will be so easy, I blame myself for not correctly explaining them at first that it will be easy. So I need to improve my English and I need to improve my speech, but as a CTO, it's okay, but I need to do better. That's what I got from those meetings.
Well, the thing that you have to be careful of is not to create a bunch of noise from that point forward, because you don't want to say, oh, 5 seconds, you can have this going. Maybe be a bit self-deprecating, but it's like, okay, it won't be 5 seconds, but you should be able to do it in 10 minutes for a first pass, or whatever your real numbers are. Just be careful.
Again, my self-critics is very strong to say things like that, but I can provide an example. So I sometimes showcase how to build Instagram competitor with Upload Care. It's like not a real competitor, of course, but the thing that has the same interface. Not scalable, it will not make you money, just the interface. As a backend developer, I can do it in 20 minutes, I believe, to do the one-page thing. But again, 20 minutes doesn't mean that you can do it for your production in 20 minutes. But it's, of course, way easier than to implement accepting file from user, sending it to server, receiving it on server, putting it in the right place, setting up the backup, transforming and delivering via CDN. It can be also be built manually.
Well, all those points you just called out there, we heard upload file, we heard put it in the right place. And for most of us, if we're thinking about, again, sticking with the uploading a file example, that's probably all we think about. But then you went on to say backup and a few other things. Mm-hmm. Again, point solution companies such as Upload Care have a lot to bring to the table. And you're hiding that complexity of sort of the integration. You're hiding the complexity, because people weren't even thinking about all those other things that really should be covered. How can a company, let's go a little bit higher level now, how can a company help potential clients, or let's say you're an open source project, how can you help consumers of your project really understand all of the true features or things you should be thinking about if you're trying to solve this problem, whatever the problem is?
You can create a lot of noise, not that we are doing, but you are completely right that most people are sticking to us because of some specific feature. Some of them, like maybe the majority, I should check stats, are sticking because of the uploading interface and functionality. But for some of them, delivery is very important because setting up CDN is not easy too. I created probably S3 bucket 200 times by my hand and didn't do it flawlessly once. It was also some problems with IAM roles or something like that. Same with the CDN, but with upload care, it's just plug and play. But again, I'm not answering your question. Your question was how to sell all of the features that we do to customers. So we are not doing this. We trying to sell only what makes sense for customers, and our whole toolset is needed only by a small fraction. So we can convert videos, documents. Sometimes people just need to accept or deliver a file, and we are completely okay with it.
Let's go a high level because you've probably dealt with this. If you're making the build versus buy decision as a company, and you're going to be an international company, and now you're thinking, okay, I'm going to build this, I'm going to buy this. Now, because you're international, you got to deal with GDPR, you have to deal with all sorts of other multi-character rules and regulations that you've never heard of in your life. If you're going to build that, it could be a bit challenging because you're going to have to hire consultants to figure out how to do all this, or you potentially go buy. If you weren't at Upload Care today as the CTO, what would you probably be thinking? What would be your first thing of, okay, we have this new feature, it's going to be global, and we have to fit into all 170 countries or however many countries there are today. What would you be thinking? Or would you be thinking, I need to update my CV and get out of here?
There are some requirements for our vendors that we should have. So as a SOC 2 Type 2 certified company, we should pick a vendor with the same level of compliance. This is actually like my job and part of my CV of picking the vendor for international company. The funny thing that GDPR and HIPAA sometimes conflict with each other. One forces you to remove data after a certain period, another forces you to store it for the certain period of time. This is a part of my job, basically.
But how do you solve it? I mean, you just brought up the conflict between GDPR and HIPAA. I mean, what are you going to do?
If a company needs to store or process some sensitive data, medical data, because HIPAA is about medical data, and GDPR also targets medical data specifically. So if you are going to do this, you need to implement or buy some solution that can manipulate with data respectively to the origin of the customer.
But that's the key point there is you either have to build it or you're going to have to buy it. Now, the chances of building it yourself as a company is pretty small. You could do it, but it would take time. You'd have to find the right people versus if you went with a solution that already covered all of those things and kept you in compliance, which is going to be cheaper. You can get it to market faster in theory. You're not having to buy the knowledge of people. You already have bought the knowledge of potentially hundreds of people through doing the buy.
Again, back to our initial question, Upload Care, I think, is a small company. When we are considering build versus buy, we are considering our annual roadmap and how can it look like in the end of the year? What can we achieve? Can we build another solution to handle data somehow? Or we can ship a user-facing feature? At this point, we are making these decisions. We can spend a year on building something for our infrastructure and no person in the world will feel it, or we can spend resources on something meaningful for user. Usually we don't pick any of these, we are finding balance. So Some things are going to be built, but we also need to focus on our product.
I want to go down one more route here. If you're doing build versus buy, you're probably not thinking about ongoing maintenance, or maybe you are, right? If you're building something, you're in Java, you're in Go, whatever, you're going to have to update versions. Well, you should update versions, let's put it that way. Whereas if you're buying, hopefully your vendor is taking care of all of those upgrades because they're trying to keep their SOC 2 compliance in place. They're trying to keep ISO 27001 in place. They're trying to keep all the things in place. So they have reasons to keep all of the software updated. Can you think of other things around the sort of the maintenance nightmares? Because I'm assuming you have maintenance nightmares as the vendor.
All my life, I believe, is a maintenance nightmare. This is my job to speak up when someone is considered to be built or bought. So what will be the consequences? Because I was in a lot of very harsh situations, like burning hardware RAID controllers or criminals attack to data center, or I don't know, failing Postgres database because of the transaction wraparound. As a highly sensitive, anxious person, when I even hearing something about let's introduce this new tool to our infrastructure, or let's build this, or let's buy this, I'm not thinking about the features and possibilities that will open. I only think about how can it break? Can we afford it to break? Can we afford to maintain it? Because doing something yourself usually requires tools. That means that you also need not only to spend resources on maintenance, but you need to maintain the level of knowledge of this tool set in your company. And the job market also dictates which tools are easier to maintain or not. So the formula in my head is very complicated. I can't put it on the paper, but a lot of variables.
A lot of variables. And even if you're using a vendor, you still have maintenance because the libraries to integrate with that vendor probably upgrade over time as well. So just because you buy, you're not off the hook of maintaining.
Absolutely. And some vendors are better than others and can notify you in advance about the deprecated versions of their libraries, for example, or APIs. But another can deprecate some API in 1 week. So reputation of the vendor is also important, and checking not only the compliance side, but the actual engineering culture inside the vendor is also important when actually picking vendor.
Now, I've poked a little bit at Upload Care, and I ask for forgiveness now, but Upload Care does a lot more than just do file uploading. What does it do? I mean, why would I choose something like Upload Care?
Oh, I have favorite features that is hard for me to do it myself. So again, when I joined, I didn't understand why it's needed, but now I have an answer. My favorite features of Upload Care is after quality and after format for images. So imagine I'm building my blog or site and I'm uploading images for it, but Upload Care, and I'm putting this image tag on my page with the link to the file on Upload Care. And Upload Care automatically serves AVIF or VP or JPEG version of the image based on the browser of the end user. So no programming, it's just a tag. It all works through our CDN. The different versions of the file are cached individually, processed individually. Basically, all modern devices receive AVIF version of the file, which is significantly lighter, of the same quality in JPEG. So the website loads much faster and it works automatically. I can build it myself on my VPS, but it won't be so elegant because a lot of things are happening on the CDN level. To build it yourself really take a lot of time. And the second option is automatic quality, which will serve this image with the minimum possible quality that is not adding artifact to an image. So the image automatically gets smaller in quality without affecting visual quality and format, which makes it even smaller and the website even faster. I didn't know it's possible. I didn't think about such a trick. But now for me, it's must have. This is my point of view, like engineering point of view. We have a lot of AI features. Recently, we introduced on-the-fly video transformations to the HLS format. So when you, for example, upload video to YouTube, you need to wait several minutes or hours until it will process to all of the resolutions. But in UploadCare, you just drop a file and it gets transformed on the fly and can be streamed immediately with no delay. I can talk about it a lot, but my favorite after format and after quality for images.
Very cool. Well, UploadCare can be found at uploadcare.com. All of Alex's information will be down in the episode description. Alex, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you guys for being so kind to me and inviting me.
We hope this episode was helpful to you. If you want to discuss it or ask a question, please reach out to us. Our contact information and a link to the Slack workspace are at devopsparadox.com/contact. If you subscribe through Apple Podcast, be sure to leave us a review there. That helps other people discover this podcast. Go sign up right now at devopsparadox.com to receive an email whenever we drop the latest episode. Thank you for listening to DevOps Paradox.